Hey everyone, today I'd like to speak about the European Court of Justice case that's been taken by two people claiming international protection in response to them not being provided accommodation on arrival into Ireland and looking for asylum. Now, of course, we've seen in most recent times that many who come into the country are economic migrants, and that's been even admitted by the government over the past few months. Now, what's really important with this is that this case was taken by the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission for two people claiming international protection, and in response the Advocate General of the European Court of Justice spoke a number of months ago and said that the state has failed to provide accommodation on the people claiming international protection's arrival. Now, what's really important is Jim O'Callaghan spoke yesterday at the Institute of International and European Affairs in Dublin, and he said this will have major ramifications for Ireland if they're found guilty of not providing accommodation. Now, Ireland claimed in the submissions that it was down to the lack of supply of housing with the housing disaster we have. Of course, it's a manufactured housing disaster, but of course what's fundamentally very important with this is that this will have major ramifications for Ireland in terms of the cost, because what's happening is they're looking now for damages. Isn't that interesting? So the majority of people who come into Ireland are economic migrants through the international protection system, and as I said, that's freely admitted through the government. But at the same time now, we could have up to 3,500 people last year that did not get provided with accommodation. Currently the figure is about 1,400. So it really opens the floodgates for more claims in terms of damages against the Irish state. And of course this is going to have major ramifications for Irish citizens. If you think in the context of the amount of people who are homeless, that a case has never been taken for anybody who's homeless. And of course, it's supposedly in contravention of the European Charter of Fundamental Rights and against European directives. So much for national obligations. It seems international obligations trump national obligations when it comes to the European Union, but we know fundamentally who they represent in terms of the mass immigration agenda and the globalist agenda and a race to the bottom, and working towards an homogenised society rather than standing up for the interests of each sovereign nation. But of course, sovereignty is a backward-looking idea, according to Micheál Martin. So this will have major ramifications for Ireland. And normally the European Court of Justice work on the basis of what the Advocate General's views were. So this will be coming down the tracks over the next period of time. It's something that really watch significantly in terms of what impact it's going to have on Irish society, notwithstanding the incumbents again on the Irish state to provide accommodation for people coming into the country, and we know the vast majority are economic migrants again, but that's just nonsense. And then there's no responsibility rather to look after the citizens of the country. Of course, that's in Article 40 of the Constitution, which states that nobody should be discriminated against in Ireland in terms of the citizenship. But again, it's like Irish are being treated essentially like second-class citizens through this, because there's never been a case taken in terms of the homeless disaster on Irish citizens as well. It's absolutely just remarkable. But this is something really to watch over the next period of time, and it's something that I have a link to in my previous video I did a couple of months ago in the comments below. That's very important to look at and highlight what's going on in Irish society. It just shows you how really far removed the European Union, the political establishment in Ireland, are from the lives of ordinary people, and it shows a massive democratic deficit in our daily lives when these work for the very rich in society against the interests of ordinary people. And coincidentally, I'm at a beautiful high cross here. You can see it, stunning high cross in Dolphin's Barn. This was built back in 1868, I think, and it was placed here in the park just in Dolphin's Barn in the early 90s. Beautiful part of our